Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Tina. I'm going to be your tour guide. Brian, my colleague, is going to make sure everything runs smoothly and also be sure I keep this to about 30 minutes or so. Yes, that is a big job, and thank you, Brian. We will also have time at the end of this demo for a Q&A, for some questions and answers. So feel free to put your questions in the chat during the demo, and we'll answer them as soon as the demonstration is finished. So I want to kick things off today by talking about why so many districts are using our Tardy plugin. Simply put, it's the most efficient way to manage your overall Tardy process. The plugin is designed to take all of those time-consuming manual attendance processes that you wrestle with every day and automate them. I want to grab that next slide, Brian. There we go. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. So here are some of those benefits and features. Auto printing the pass to class, assigning a discipline action associated with a total tardies, recording the tardy code directly to the student's daily or meeting record, keeping a tardy count for all your students. We have reporting options that allow you to manage your data very efficiently. You can use the parent portal to make sure that parent and student alerts are sent out when attendance is modified. And we work with PIN pads, swipe cards, ID cards, or biometrics. So how are we different than other tardy solutions? Also a really important question to ask when you're thinking about, adding a new tool to your attendance toolkit. Well, here's a couple of the differentiators. We write real-time attendance directly to PowerSchool. There's no sync required. We automatically append the clock in and clock out fields, whether you're using the meeting side where the meeting time entry, clock in and clock out values need to be assigned, or the daily side where the clock in and clock out fields are appended for the overall day. Our plugin is configurable and ready to use in minutes. Tech-friendly, easy to use. We have a dedicated attendance activity page. It's super fast, and we are always improving this based on the feedback we get from you in the field that say, hey, this would be a really great thing to add. So those are some of the differentiators that make our plugin outstanding. Okay, so let's get started here. Our plugin is installed at the district level, like most plugins, but you configure each school independently. So why is that important? Why am I highlighting that? Well, this allows each school to choose how attendance should be recorded with the plugin based on your preferred attendance recording method. For example, high schools and middle schools, they may want attendance written to the student's meeting record when arriving late to the building or leaving early. Where in elementary school, they might prefer attendance as recorded to the student's daily record. So this makes it a very useful product district-wide. So today I'm going to demonstrate how the plugin works in 2 different schools, each with a different attendance recording method configured in the plugin. My high school, we're going to be writing to the student's meeting record. For elementary school, I'm going to show you how the plugin works to write to the student's daily record. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my screen. Let's get started. All righty, so coming over here to my test server here, my PowerSchool test server, and starting here today in Apple Grove High School. The plugin is installed, it's configured, and we're going to take a look at how a student's meeting attendance record can automatically appended when they're coming in late to the building or they're leaving early. So over here on the left navigation bar, we need to find our way to what we call the scan page. The scan page is a page provided by the plugin that needs to be open when you're recording attendance. So let's go there now. So I'm going to choose attendance on the left side. I'm going to choose meeting attendance. With the new user interface, you can favorite that meeting attendance if it makes it easier to get there. And once we've made those selections, the plugin provides a link. And the link is going to bring us to the page that needs to be open when you're ready to record attendance. Let me move this little guy over here. Okay, so here we are. Let's talk a little bit about this page. Start with the top half of the page with these 5 items. There's an attendance time and day display. This is going to align with your time zone. It's going to align with your country. If you're, elsewhere in the world, this will display current to where you are. A meeting attendance code. Notice I have a code that is assigned here. This code is a configured code that I've set as my default. You're going to set this code as the one that's going to be used most frequently, either all day or for the majority of your time using the plugin. However, if you need to change from this default configuration, you click on the dropdown, and what presents are the attendance codes that you've created in your attendance bank. So again, you create a default attendance code, a code that's going to be used most frequently. Use the dropdown to move to a different code if that applies to a different code applies to a student in front of you. Okay, hall pass. Again, a global default to yes. I want a hall pass printed by default. However, if I need to change that for any reason, I can go ahead and adjust that on this scan page. Attendance comment. This is where you can write anything that is interesting or required for you to note going forward for your student. Bellyache, overslept, bus late, you can go ahead and add that comment into this box, and it will move and be written over to the attendance comment that aligns with the class on the student's bell schedule at the time they're coming into the building or the time that they're leaving, if you're going to be using the plugin for early dismissal as well. All right, down here, last of the 5 options that I want to discuss. Cursor is flashing in a green field that's waiting for student ID entry. Okay, how do we get a student ID in here? Well, lots of ways you can get a student ID in here. You can use, if you're using an ID card, you could use a barcode scanner. It's going to send either the student number or the student ID into that field. That's one way. You could manually type a number in. If you can see what I just did here, I just hit my keyboard and I manually moved a number over in there. Another option. You could use a pin pad, a USB connected pin pad that would, plug right into your laptop or your desktop, and you could use a pin pad. Student could type their number in, and that would be inserted into this field. Or you could use a finger scanner. I'm a huge fan of the finger scanning option. Again, not required, just yet another one of the options that you can use to send ID numbers into the scan page. It's a great way to also add efficiencies, ensure privacy, security, and kids come to school with these every single day. So if you're interested in that, we can always talk further. So the first time that I run through this demonstration, I am going to use the finger scan option, but then I'll also use the manual entry, so you can kind of get a taste of both. All right, so top half of the screen, that's already been discussed of the scan page. The bottom half, let's take a look at the information that's included on the bottom half of this particular page. We see some student names. We have the column headers that will display information. This attendance activity for the day will be recorded on the bottom half of the page. You can configure how many or how few attendance records you wish to see on this page. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to take you through. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to pay attention to the screen. Like I said, the first time I'm gonna demonstrate this solution being used is with the finger scanner. So if you note here, pay attention. I'm going to put my finger on the scanner. And what I want you to know as this hall pass generates onto this screen is that all of your attendance recording is complete. Okay, what you see is the hall pass. but the meeting time entry has been assigned and the attendance code and the attendance comment have been written to the student's record. All right, I'll show you that in a minute. So let's come in real close here. I want to break down this hall pass for you so that you can see the information that's recorded on the hall pass. I see a date and a time entry. Student's name, okay? Alyssa's name is on here, and the class that Alyssa has on her bell schedule at the time she came into the building. The attendance code and the status. This was the attendance code that was used on my scan page. That was the one I chose to record attendance for Alyssa. And the status here is pulling from the status for the way your attendance code is configured in PowerSchool. If you think about where you do your attendance codes in PowerSchool, it's the presence status. So we're pulling from your configurable attendance codes, configured attendance codes. Current tardy count here is 14. The plugin is going to help you manage the number of tardies that your students collect, either during the course of the year or broken down by semesters. And then under here is a message. This is a configurable message. My message that aligns with the tardy threshold Alyssa has reached, or tardy number 14, is success is the sum of small efforts repeated. Okay, that was my inspirational quote for the day. However, yours can say something different. So you're going to be able to assign a message, a consequence, an inspirational quote, a behavior change that you're looking for that aligns with the tardy threshold that's been reached. And then your students get to see that because it can print out on the hall pass. Okay, I'm gonna move past that, and now we've bounced back. The focus is ready for an ID number, and I'm ready for my next student that's coming in late to the building that we can enter attendance for. Okay, let's run this through with the manual process and do a couple of other things on this page. I'm going to change the attendance code. So I'm going to go from a tardy unexcused to a tardy excused because the student here in front of me needs a different code assigned. I'm going to manually type a number in, and then I'm going to submit that. Again, hall pass is being generated. Attendance has already been recorded. So let's take a look at this hall pass. I've configured this hall pass a little bit differently. So I still have my student's name. I still have the student's, the date and the timestamp that aligns with when the student came into the building. I have the class, I have the attendance code, and I have the presence status that aligns with that attendance code that you've configured in PowerSchool already. And then I display the scan time again at the bottom. Again, a configurable piece. Notice I don't have a message and I don't have a tardy count. That's because in my school, I've decided not to count a tardy excused as another tardy in their tardy bucket, right? So again, these are things that I'm just showing you to share with you. When we go back to the configuration page, some of this will unfold a little bit more. So I'm ready to now back again. My student's hall pass is printed. I'm back at my with the focus, waiting for another ID number to be entered so I can continue to move my students through the front office and off to class. Couple things about this page too I want to point out here. You can always look at a tardy slip again, either for reference or to reprint it. Let's just say your thermal printer got stuck or something along those lines. You can always reprint a hall pass. That option is right here on the scan page. The other thing that's super nice here is that we have a link. We have a link that'll bring us directly to the student's attendance record. Okay, so let's go there right now. Let's take a look at how Alyssa and Harold's attendance have been recorded. I'm going to start with Alyssa because that was the first one that I showed you. So I'm going to click on the link and we're going to go directly to Alyssa's attendance record. Okay, so down here, Alyssa came in at the time that aligns with this English class here. Notice that her attendance code was appended accordingly. A couple other neat things that happened with this code. In the comment, I have aligned I have assigned the timestamp for the time that she came into the building. In addition, this code is set up to insert a clock in value that goes to the meeting time entry field directly, where PowerSchool can then collect that information and do the calculations accordingly. to adjust the total overall minutes. All of that we're doing for you without you having to do multiple clicks in order to insert this information. So quick look again, we inserted the attendance code to the class on the bell schedule when Alyssa came into the building. We added the timestamp to the clock in field automatically. And we also added that timestamp to the comment in case you ever wanted to reference that comment for that information again. Okay. Let's go back. Let's take a look at Harold's record. I chose a different code and I want to show you how this one recorded. Again, I'll show you, we'll take a trip back to the scan page, attendance, meeting attendance, and then our link over here. That brings us to the scan page. Again, our page that needs to be open when we're recording attendance. Let's take a look at Harold's record. We'll get back this way. So quick link that brings us right to Harold's record. There we go. Okay. So Harold had word processing on his schedule at the time that he came into the building. The attendance code that I used for Harold was a tardy excused. Okay. It behaves a little bit differently based on the way I've configured it. For Harold, I wasn't inserting the total, the timestamp to the clock in and clock out value. Okay. Just showing you different ways that you can use this plugin and the codes. However, I did append the timestamp to the comment field so I could reference that. Okay, so two different ways that we can do this within your school based on whether or not you need to record and manage to overall minutes in the day or not. So a couple of different ways to do that. Okay, Ryan, what did I forget on this part? Anything?
I think you've covered everything on this section. I just want to remind everyone to please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat or put them in the Q&A section. And if neither of those are working for you, raise your hand and we'll try and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Brian. Okay, so we're coming back to the scan page here. I want to bring us back to this starting point and kind of do a little review. Again, this is the scan page. This is the page that needs to be open when your students are coming in late to the building or leaving early so that we can record attendance in PowerSchool. We are recording directly. There is no sync required. Okay, so this is the page that gets open and it's a daily view. All right, so at the start of every day, when your attendance team logs into PowerSchool and opens this page, all these, there will be nothing there until attendance begins to be recorded as students travel through the front office. But there's a great little link here to what's called the printing page. It's really an attendance activity page. It's on my list of names to update, so it's a little bit more accurate, but it's an attendance activity page. And this is the page where you can go and find cumulative historical attendance data at the tip of your fingers. So on this page, we have the basic filter provided by PowerSchool. However, we have added some wonderful ways for you to refine your search so that you can manage your attendance data in a way that works best for you. So let me show you a couple things here. For example, let me give you a for example. There are many schools that have a threshold where if a student reaches a certain number of tardies, there's a consequence, maybe a detention, maybe there's, some type of a service that has to happen or, a visit to a particular teacher. So there's a threshold that would be reached that the attendance staff wants to be aware of. Using our plugin and this printing page, you can get that information very, very quickly. For example, if I wanted to search on, I'm going to do tardy unexcused, and I want to see all of my students that have reached a total tardy count of 3, tardy unexcused, so that I can get in front of them before they reach that threshold where there is, another layer added. I can apply my search and notice down here all of my students with a tardy unexcused that have reached a threshold of 3 will show up for me. And there's a gajillion different ways that you can use this page as well. Searching on a particular student, searching on a particular date to find trends that you see happening so that your intervention team can go study them and decide a better direction to put your kids in. So yeah, this is a great page to do all kinds of things. One of the things I do want to bring to your attention is some of our students, you can see here, you'll see them listed several times. That was done on purpose because another interesting trend is to potentially see what classes may be missed on the route to collecting tardies, right? So with our student here, we may notice, oh, gosh, tardy 2 of 3, she missed trigonometry. Tardy 3 of 3, she's missed trigonometry. I wonder what's going on with trigonometry. So you see, we try to help with this page, allow you with all of these filtering and search refine options to start to connect some dots and really encourage that attendance team to make some changes. Okay, so this again, the printing page, it's an attendance activity page. It gives us the cumulative set of attendance information, different from the scan page, which is our daily view. Okay, I'm going to show you how this is set up. It's 1:21. Brian, I promise I'm being mindful of the time. Promise, promise. Okay, so that's how it works. Again, super fast, super efficient, and a really great way to be adding some efficiencies to your tardy process. So that's how it works. Let's go behind the scenes. I'm going to show you how it's configured. So over here on the navigation bar, school management is my selection. Attendance is my sub-selection, and I'm going to click on this link, which is a link to our settings. Okay, here we go. So there's only 2 areas in PowerSchool that need to be configured for use with our plugin. This is our first stop. Our second stop is going to be our attendance codes. So I'm going to minimize this guy for a minute. Okay, so record meeting attendance, record daily attendance. This is the moment. This is where you're going to choose your lane. As I mentioned, each school is configured independently. I'm over here at Apple Grove High School where I want to make sure that when my students come in late or leave early, their attendance gets recorded to the class on the bell schedule at the time of entry or exit. Okay, so you'll notice here that my yes is selected for meeting attendance. That default attendance code, okay, that's right over here. Tardy unexcused, that's the one I expect to be using the majority of the time. So I've set it as my default. Again, if I click on the drop down, just like on the scan page, your bank is going to display your attendance bank that you've built, and you can choose a code that's appropriate for you. Couple of options over here on the left-hand side in terms of our main settings. This is about how the plugin is going to behave. Do I want to return to my default code after every scan? Yes or no? Do I want to default for a hall pass for every code? Yes or no? Am I going to be using a student number or a student ID as my identifying number or value for my students? You make a selection. Tardy count period. Tardy count period will allow you to either select the full year, where the tardies will continue to accumulate from day 1 till the last day of school, or you can choose to reset that tardy count based on the way that your terms are configured in PowerSchool. So you determine your tardy count period. Include the scan time in the comment, yes or no. I'll remind you that was where we actually appended the timestamp in the meeting comment. That's, I think it's great information to put there, especially if you're not using the clock in and clock out value. It allows you to get real granular with some entries when you're looking at the overall attendance. Use clock in and clock out. If meeting time entry is required on the meeting side, or the clock in and clock out fields require timestamps to be automated and input when a student comes in or leaves the front office, you would select this to yes. Also not required. If you're not using instructional minutes, we turn it off. And the scanning page. The scanning page, that display that I was talking about on the scan page, you can see as many or as few records on the daily listed as attendance starts to build. It's a web page. You don't want to bog it down too much, but again, you're in control of determining how many records you do or don't want to see. All right, main settings done, pretty easy to get taken care of. Print slip settings. This is about how you want your hall pass to look. You configure your hall pass to add the information that you wish to see. And then here's our preset tardy comments. On the left-hand side, we have a tardy count. On the right-hand side, we have the ability to write a consequence, a message, a behavior change, an inspirational quote that aligns with the tardy count that is reached for your student. Okay, so 400 characters, you write whatever message works best for your school. All right, that part's done. Let's take a look at our attendance codes. Again, that's our second and final stop in configuring the plugin. School management, attendance codes. Once the plugin is installed and enabled, every single attendance code in PowerSchool in the attendance bank that you've built has an additional set of options. So whether you use them or you're using the code or not with a plugin, you will decide how to configure them. So I'm going to open up Tardy unexcused first because that was one of the codes I used. Here are a set of 6 options that will require either to be enabled or disabled because I want to use this code with the plugin. So let's just go through the logic with this. So it's a tardy unexcused. I've selected use the code in a tardy count because I want this to add a tardy to my students' total when this code is used. Clock in and clock out usage. For my school, for the tardy unexcused, I want to make sure that my clock in value is appended with a timestamp so that the overall instructional minutes get managed for the day. I would choose a plan B for a tardy code. I want to use the code to print a hall pass. It's selected. I want to use this code on the attendance activity page, the printing page link that we talked about. I want to be able to search on this code. And I also want my students to see their total count, tardy count, and the comment on their hall pass. And therefore, I have selected both of these options. So let's go back and look at the other code that I used during the demonstration, which was a tardy excused. So for the tardy excused code, it's set up a little bit differently. It's an excused code. I've decided I don't want this to be added to my students' total tardy count. So that's deselected. I don't want to use this to adjust meeting minutes. So I leave this blank with the default select plan. I do want to use this code to print a hall pass, and I do want to be able to search on this code on the printing page, on that attendance activity page. So I've selected both of those. I don't need to see the tardy count or a tardy comment on that hall pass because this is an excused code. Again, just showing you the way I've done my school. You can do yours anyway, but you have some great ways to configure your codes. Then I want to show you one last thing, another code on here, which is the early dismissal. We get a lot of questions about, can you use this plugin for early dismissal? Yes, yes, and yes. So let me show you a little bit it's called early out, but my early dismissal code and how I've configured that one. Because, again, our 6 selections down here, because my early dismissal code is not a tardy code, I do not have this selected. This is not going to be added to the student's total tardy count. It's an early dismissal. It doesn't make sense. Plan C will allow the time entry to be written to the clock out field. Okay, remember, PowerSchool's doing the calculations when we insert those timestamps. So an early dismissal would go to the clock out field so that the calculations are done accordingly. And a plan C is the selection that directs it to that field. I want to print a hall pass with this code. I also want to see this on my attendance activity page, on my printing page. But I don't need to see a tardy count and I don't need to see a comment for an early dismissal. So just wanted to show you a couple of different ways that you can use these options to create your attendance, preferences. Okay, I'm going to do, it's 1:30. Yes, I'm keeping track of the time. So what I want to do right now is bring you over to the other school where we talked about doing daily attendance. So again, Apple Grove High School, I showed you the plugin configured to record attendance when the kids are coming in late to the building or leaving early, to record attendance to the students' meeting record. So the class on the student's bell schedule when they're coming into the building or leaving. So that's my high school. I have my elementary school set up a little differently. I'm more concerned on my elementary school that the daily record is getting updated. So let's take a look. Things are going to look very, very similar here. Same way to get to the page, attendance. But in this case, I'm choosing daily attendance because that's the lane that I'm recording. And then my link here indicates daily instead of meeting. Other than that, looks identical to my high school. And so does the scan page. You'll notice here that because we are writing to the daily record, I do not have class information listed here. Okay, so this is not going to display a class. It's only going to be writing to the student's daily record. But same idea. We have a date and a timestamp that aligns with your time zone in the country where your school is. I have a default code, again, one that I've configured behind the scenes for this school. I can also use my drop down and pull in another if I need it. Hall pass option works the same. Attendance comment, I can write anything in here. And then right here is my is the ID field, right? I'm looking for ID entry on this particular field. Okay, so the bottom half, again, the same. I'm going to be displaying my student information. The only thing that looks different on this page is that you're not going to see the class on the student's bell schedule because we are writing to the daily attendance. Okay, so let's go through this one. I'm being mindful of the time. So let's go through this. Let me bring up my finger scan. I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to show you the finger scan first and how ID entry can be entered using a finger scan. And then I'm going to show you just manual entry. And I'll use two different codes here. So my finger scanner, I'm going to place my finger here. Hall pass is loading and my attendance is already recorded. We're done. So let's bring this in close so you can see this hall pass. Again, looks similar. Date and a timestamp. My student Stephanie came in at 1:32. She's tardy unexcused. Tardy count is listed on this hall pass based on what I've configured and my message for tardy number 2, the one that I wrote for my school. Okay. Now close this box out and autofocus back to that field. We're ready for the next student entry. Okay, I'm going to choose a different code like I did on my high school demonstration. Oops, I don't want that on. And now I'm going to type in a number, choosing a different code, typing in a number, and same idea. Hall pass gets loaded. We're good to go. Now we're ready for the next student. Real fast, keeps things moving, get kids off to where they need to be. All right, I'm going to show you Stephanie's record first. We chose a tardy unexcused. I have this particular code configured to write the time in and the time in and the timeout logic. On the daily side, I want to explain this. You'll see 1:32 is the clock in value and 7 p.m. is the clock out value. Yes, I have a very long school day. So my bell schedule, because I do demonstrations all over the world, I have a very, very long day to make sure I'm working within my school day. So this represents Stephanie coming in at 1:32 in the afternoon, which moves to her clock in field. 7 p.m. is auto assigned as the end of the day for the bell schedule. Okay, let's look real quick here. You can kind of see how this all plays out in this field. Depending upon where you are, what state you are, this may look a little bit differently for you, this particular page, but you'll get the gist of it here. The code, the comment, clock in and clock out values automatically appended. The calculations are assigned. We don't do that. PowerSchool does it based on the values that we are automatically inserting for you. Backing out here, let's kind of take our little quick steps back to the scan page. Attendance, daily attendance. Again, flag these as favorites. I just didn't do that, but you can. Couple, 2, 3 clicks, and we're back in business. Cole, let's take a look at his record. Cole's record is going to look a little different than Stephanie's record. I did not assign clock in and clock out values. I did not configure this code to write the clock in and clock out values. So you can go one lane or the other. decide if you do or do not need those clock in and clock out values assigned. But it looks very similar without those values appended. I have a timestamp in the comment, and I have the code that is assigned for Cole's record for the day. Let me minimize this box here. Just to show you once again how the pages are very, very similar. We don't need to go into great detail on the printing page side of things, simply because it does look the same and work the same as the printing page I showed you for the high school. But let's just take a quick look in here, a quick look and see, so you can get an idea. Again, you have lots of ways to refine your searches so that you can use your data in a way that will help your students and your attendance team, manage that attendance process and your attendance strategies overall. So it looks the same, works the same. You can add different search criteria and multiple search criteria. Configuration. See me speeding it up. You see me doing that, Brian? I'm doing the speed up part here. So, again, since we went into detail on the high school configuration settings, I'm just going to briefly show you the elementary school settings. So school management, attendance. Here's a link to our configuration page. Looks identical because it is, and just note here that I've selected daily attendance as my recording attendance preference as opposed to meeting like I did for the high school. Same idea, main settings, reflecting the plugin behavior. Print slip settings, how you want your hall pass to look. Tardy comments, your message that the message that you want your students to see that align with the tardy threshold that's been reached. Okay, whew. A little longer. I went a little longer than I wanted to, and I went into some detail. Now I'm excited to hear some questions that you might have about our plugin. Anything, Bri, that we can?
Yeah, and anyone who comes up with questions, please enter them in the chat or in the question answer section. I believe that everything is good with those. So one question here is, can we record both meeting and daily attendance?
So with the plugin, you do need to choose a lane, okay? You do need to choose either meeting or daily. That being said, your bridge period can assist in managing the overlap of the data, of the attendance data that you need to see. I would love to talk to you in more detail about that. I have helped many districts figure out a great way to use the plugin while managing both types of attendance recording. But the plugin itself, you need to choose the lane. It's all about how you would determine your bridge period being used in the school.
Okay. Are there other ways to use this tardy solution, like field trips or something like that?
Sure, absolutely. So the neat thing about the plugin is that, primarily you're going to use it for your students coming in late to the building or your students leaving early. But there's lots of other ways to use it to really help you manage attendance recording with students that would be coming in through the front office for any reason. Let me show you. Let me just go in here real quick. You can select any attendance code to be used and inserted to your student's attendance record that you wish. Any attendance code that you have built in your bank. So you could choose any of these. Whatever code that you choose here, like for field trips, or maybe, however, another code that you might use could be not vacation, that wouldn't be a good one, but field trip, study hall, or various things that you might want to assign as a code to be assigned to a student's record, you would choose from the bank that you've built. So the answer to that is yes.
All right. Next question here is, I really like the plugin, ready to move forward, but what happens like once I purchase it? Do I have to go through PowerSchool in order to get the stuff installed, or what's the...
No, that's a great question. So what you would do is, Well, let's talk about that. So if you're ready to move forward, we would have a conversation and get a quote over to you. And once you would send a purchase order over, that gets the ball rolling, and we send you a welcome letter. We install the plugin directly for you during our installation meeting. We configure it for you as well, and also to kind of help answer and guide your the configuration process based on how you want your school to use it. So we do all of that for you at identiMetrics. Multiple ways we can, work with you in terms of getting that installed.
All right, looks like we got time for one more question. And for those of you who we didn't get to, we'll reply individually on the follow-up email. Can you go over the various student ID entry methods?
Oh, I can. Okay, so cursor is flashing here in this field that's waiting for ID entry. Your one option could be an ID card if you already have them that has the student ID or student number on the ID card. You could use a barcode scanner, scan the card, ID entry could go in. Another option, I'm typing on my keyboard now. You could use keyboard entry on the device where your browser is running PowerSchool. You could also use a pin pad. Think cafeteria style that some people use, and they have a pin pad that's attached to the computer. Also, using the plugin or using the application, and students could type their own number in, right, using the pin pad. And then another option would be a finger scan system that we could provide for you. And we can talk about that in detail if you're interested. It's a great way to keep things moving even faster, efficiency, privacy, security, and data quality.
All right, that's all the questions we had. Thank you, Tina.
You're welcome. Okay, so a couple of things that I want to just mention in closing. Thank you all for your time today. It is always great to be able to share this amazing plugin with all of you and anybody that is looking to improve efficiencies with their Tardy process. If you are interested in a further conversation, you can reach out to Brian or to me directly. You want to put our emails in the chat? I don't think we have a slide for that, Brian, but you want to
It
just
will
put our...
it will be in the follow-up email.
Perfect. Okay, so you'll have a way to contact us. So if you want to get together and talk a little bit further and explore how this solution might work best for you, please reach out. We're always excited to get new schools started and coming on board with our front office Tardy plugin. Pricing information, Brian, does that get passed along as well?
I will include it on your follow-up email. Yes.
That would be wonderful. Pricing information will be included, and we hope to hear from you and help you use our Tardy plugin in a way that is going to streamline your process. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and look for an email from us for a follow-up.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.